Hey there! Today we're going to talk about this pen, a Delta Naranja. Except this one was $10 and not a few hundred. This is from China, and this was sent to me by someone who actually gave a fairly nice description, I think. He said, I bought this on eBay for something silly like $10 delivered to the UK. It was described as new Dolce Vita Naranja medium nib size fountain pen, and they are still sold on eBay. I'm not sure how happy Delta are about it, but I thought it may be the start of a new series for you. Knockoff, knockout. I think that's a brilliant idea. If I can get a real Naranja, I will definitely do that. Now, will you compare the real articles with cheaper replicas? Yes. I don't have a Naranja, but what I do have is a Delta Dolce Vita. Right, so clearly two pens by the same brand. Now, if you have a look at those two, I'm not sure how I can show you them. I'll hold them like this. Then you will see that they did a fairly good job of creating a replica. It's not a replica of this pen, but you know the style is pretty well copied. You got the black end. It's not a piston turning knob, but the end cap, the blind cap, whatever you like to call that. It's not really a cap, but you got the metal ring. You've got the material. And in all honesty, the material on this Chinese pen doesn't look a whole lot worse to me than the material on the Delta pen. It's a little lighter. It maybe has a little less marbling, but there definitely is marbling, so they did a really good job. If you look at the cap band, I mean, seriously, this one has some shapes on it. I think Delta quite often has some sort of, well, actually Montegrappa has a lot of the meandering shapes. There's a meander shape on there. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look particularly cheap. It's a little rounded off. It could have been more sharply defined, but still, it's there. This pen has the little ring on it. Sorry, the little wheel on it on the clip. The Chinese one does not have that, but I'm not sure whether the actual Naranja has that. I'm just not sure. And then the size of the cap. I mean, just look at it. The little bands, the top end of the cap. So I think they did a pretty good job imitating Delta pens. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'll cover the parts of the pen, tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and I'll do a writing sample. So we start at the top of the cap. There's nothing there, just a black thing. Now we have the clip. I think the little ring here that probably holds the clip, yes, it holds the clip in place on the Delta Dolce Vita. Actually here the clip is just a completely separate entity, so this ring is just there to look cool. It's not connected to the actual clip. The clip itself operates easily. I think I could snap that off if I would like to. It feels like it's very springy, but that will keep your pen in place, I'm assuming, yes. And one thing that's nice that they have this little black thing on there, which is rounded off and really makes it easy to put the pen in something. Clearly this was not a good demonstration because there's not enough tension there, but you can actually forget about it. Now we have this little ring there with the meander shape. I'm sure this won't focus, you can't see it, but there are meander shapes on their little wavy patterns. And another nice little ring. It looks good. I think it looks good, in all honesty. Then we have this nice material, not sure what it is, acrylic. I don't know, but it looks cool. You have some marbling, again, I'm sure you can't really see it, but it's pretty nice and decent. Then we get this second ring. This ring is loose. I can just turn that around. Clearly on a Delta that probably would not be the case. But then we have this end thing. We have a nice little lip there. The end thing on the cap, it's not really a medallion, but it's sort of reflective. It's well, a mirror finish, but it has facets. Well, not, yeah, I guess some type of facet. So I can't really see myself in there. But when you take the cap off, it has the lip there. You post it. Bang! It clicks in place, and once it's on there pretty tightly. You really need to exert some pressure to take it off. It won't fall off. That's very, very cool. The cap itself takes quite some strength to pull off the section. It really clicks in place with a lot of conviction. So The section, smooth, a lip there to keep the cap in place. Even though it's smooth, I didn't find it particularly slippery. I didn't really have that impression. Nib and feed, friction fit. The nib says, of course, iridium point, Germany. That was completely unexpected, wasn't it? Has some little scroll work on it, and that's it. Nib and feed are friction fit, so you can pull them out for easy cleaning. This pen did not come with a converter, at least mine didn't. I once bought I think a pack of 10 Jinhao converters for 99 cents on eBay or something, so I just slapped one of those in. It was a bit of a tight fit, but that worked out in the end. That's just a regular converter, nothing fancy there. So actually, I'm sure you cannot see that, but the barrel is somewhat translucent. So I can see a bit of the converter inside. It's not fully transparent, but as I said, translucent. Okay, so I put that back in place, and I'll tell you what I like about it. Well, I think it looks good. I mean, if you have a quick look at this, I think a lot of people will say, oh, that's a nice Delta you got there. Well, you know, $10. Is Delta happy with that? Well, I'm sure it's not. But I'm not a representative of Delta, so that's too bad. I didn't invent the concept of the replica. So, that's cool. Things I don't like about it. Well, the nib has a little bit of feedback, but I'm sure I can solve that. I'll probably take a bit of micro mesh to it, and I'm sure I'll smooth it out a little bit. Something I'm not a huge fan of is that this pen really, the cap is really on there quite tightly. It's not a huge issue, but I prefer either a screw cap or a cap that just slides off a bit more easily. Maybe when I've used it a couple of times it'll get easier, I'm not sure. But it's somewhat, I think it's a fairly annoying click that really, just listen. I mean, that's really, I just, maybe that's a pet peeve, I'm not sure, but I just don't like that. Okay, that's pretty much all there's to it. An interesting pen, an affordable pen. I think we need to see how it writes. And that's what we're going to do next. So I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so here we go with the pen that is a Delta Naranja style. The nib, I would say, is fine. And let me see. Yes, well, it was sold as a medium nib, but I think it's on the fine side. The ink is Ackerman. Simplicity's Violet. Right. Okay, well let's do a bit of writing. I feel some feedback when I write. It's not necessarily unpleasant, but it's definitely there. I would probably smooth out this nib a little bit in a while, but first, of course, I need to know how it writes exactly. Okay, let's do a bit of fast writing. Well, that keeps up pretty well. I don't see any large skips or anything, so that's very good. I like that. Let's check out some coloring to see how wet the nib is. It seems to be a fairly even patch of ink. And quite wet too, as you can see. Okay. What about line variation? No pressure, and then I start to add pressure. Usually, it's my experience with these Chinese pens, you don't get a whole lot of line variation. Nibs are quite hard. Well, a little bit. you can squeeze out just a little bit of variation. I don't expect a flex pen. Of course, it wasn't marketed as such, but right. So there you have it, a Naranja style, Delta Naranja style. Someone should record a song about that. It's a knockoff, clearly, but it could be a whole lot worse. There is eye for detail. The pen seems to be fairly well made. So I don't mind owning this, actually. So that's all there's to it. I hope you found this useful. If you're looking for a cheap Naranja, this is it. So I'll see you later. Bye bye.